Hello and welcome to another episode of the Growing Pains podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. Today we are having a look at the importance of a commercial focus when launching your business. Knowing where your revenue is going to come from to give you greater decision-making possibilities down the line and to make sure that you can then get investment as and when is necessary rather than constantly needing it. I'm delighted to be joined by Octavian Neguletu today to discuss this in a bit more detail. He is the technical co-founder of Vente AI, which works to automate recruitment processes, about which I'm sure he will tell us a lot more. Welcome to the podcast, Octavian. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thanks.
If we start with kind of your route, because that was via an accelerator, and I guess that's an interesting perspective to have to sort of put the commercial focus at the forefront from the off.
Yeah, absolutely. So our story is quite interesting. We started initially. I met one of my co-founders, Itamar, who is right now focusing on the customer success and operations within the business. I met him on this Y Combinator school, which is kind of a Tinder for founders, if you will. And it's interesting because that meeting almost never happened. Prior to him, I had had about 10 other meetings. They didn't work too well. I didn't click with any of those people. And then he was literally the last one who messaged me. And I just initially, my initial thought was like, you know what, I'm not gonna bother. It's probably gonna be a waste of time again. But I just decided to take it anyway. We went for a coffee, and here we are now. And then I guess later on he introduced me to our third co-founder, Cameron, who's focused on the commercial. He has the recruitment experience, having been a recruiter himself and having sold to recruiters as well. And that's how we came about as a team and started exploring different ideas. At the time, I was interested in AI applications, practical applications within business, within the business world. And then we just all came up with this idea, chipping in with our prior experience. But the problem was we knew that at the time we had like very lucrative gigs, all of us, and we decided that if we want to do this, we have to go full time. And at the time, we had the opportunity to join this accelerator called Antler. And to us, this was the commitment that let's just apply, and we just have to make it work. Otherwise, there's no point. And then we just have to go full time, and that was actually the risk. So we dropped everything we had, and then went full in, not knowing what was going to happen. And at the end of the program, if we pitched to the committee in the right way, and they like the idea, then they would invest. So for us, that investment was, I guess, foundational in a way, because without it, it's hard to tell what would have happened. But it definitely helped, and that's how things started, really.
And I think it's really interesting because a lot of people I speak to say that if you keep that sort of safety net or the plan B or the trapdoor, different ways that people refer to it, it just does have a way of taking your focus away slightly from fully committing.
Absolutely, 100% I agree. So I had tried to do it in the past, splitting my attention, trying to go on the side part-time. Not only it's going to take you a lot of time to get any achievements, but it's also going to be extremely difficult, especially if you're going by yourself. So I think that level of commitment and that level of risk is necessary. I think pressure is one of the, I guess, key drivers to in this kind of world, in the business world, in the startup world. And I think, yeah, I completely agree. Having a plan B is a complete distraction, and it takes so much mental energy that you would otherwise put in plan A. So that's, that was one of the discussions that we had, like, prior Antler, and we kind of all agreed on the risks and what we wanted to do, and we just decided to take this risk together. So far, it seems like it's been the right decision. So yeah, that's but I would definitely reiterate what you said. Yeah, you cannot. I think it's wrong, especially in the early stages, to have to have a plan B and then not put all your energy into plan A.
And then when it comes to the sort of commercial focus of the business, how did you balance out having to think about obviously the product side, which is your area of the business, and also making sure that you had a minimal viable product to start making revenue from the get-go?
Yeah, so it was from day one. We the whole idea was that we were gonna have to make revenue as soon as possible. So no, usually entrepreneurs and founders like to dream big dreams, and I do that all the time. But you also have to be grounded, and especially in today's economy, really, you don't have like a lot of room to make a lot of mistakes. So for us, it was critical that we had something up and running. We cut a lot of corners, um, just to get something out there in front of our potential clients and see if it's worth doing it, or if not, we had to pivot like very, very quickly. So we were against time, we were against resources. I think time and resources was really the biggest, I guess, the what was causing the most of the anxiety, was putting the pressure, was turning the pressure on. And I think that's what made us be very, I guess, optimal in execution, and trying to every single step that we were taking was exactly towards that goal. So we try to minimize any other, you know, I guess, side routes, nice to haves, great ideas, impactful. I mean, that I think that comes in time, but the main the core focus, I think, should definitely be, especially when you start, um, your startup or business, is survival. Like, you have to make sure that you can actually survive and have enough resources to keep going on. So for us, that was the main, um, I guess, the North Star metric.
And with that in mind, how has being part of a three-way co-founding relationship helped to reinforce that? Has that been useful to have sort of two other people to make sure that between you, you are keeping that focus?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it definitely helped because obviously we all have different, sometimes different, um, visions probably, and we just having someone to talk to and make sure that you're not drifting off and too much from the main goal is very important. And holding each other accountable, especially whenever one of us, we realize that one of us is starting to maybe drift off a bit from the main thing, and then we have to just, like, I guess, correct this as a team and just put us back on the main path, really. So super useful. It does come, of course, with challenges. It's hard sometimes to manage really different, I guess, opinions, ideas. But at the end of the day, what's best for the business wins, and this is our strategy all the time. No matter how hurt our egos are in the process, it's what matters for the business. Like, what will help the business move forward.
And what have you found the main challenges for you have been in terms of accessing your ideal clients and your market?
Well, I think the main challenge, as always, when you start fresh, is reputation, building that reputation. People don't know who you are, don't know anything about you. Obviously, they are suspicious by nature because they should be. That's what keeps them safe. So, um, we're very grateful for the people, for our early adopters who believed in us. We didn't have much at the time. Believe it or not, we just actually started with like spreadsheets. We were just sending spreadsheets. These leads were basically a bunch of lines in a spreadsheet, and that's how we were sending it to our customers. And um, Yeah, and then we gradually you start the ball rolling, and then you gain a bit more trust every day, and then at some point they will mention you to someone else, so they'll refer you, and then it starts having a compounding effect. Um, but I think the most I guess the most interesting part was to just be present, like just be there. You don't have to have the best product in the world. You don't have to have the most polished version of it. Just be there, have those conversations, initial conversations, understand their pain points, present your solution, listen to them a lot, listen more than you talk, of course. um, and then at some point you just get a break, and that's when you start like doubling down. You just double down on what you hear, your intuition, of course, all sorts of things. Also, and I think I'm still extremely grateful. We still have like our early adopters. There's like three of them. I'm not going to mention their names, but we're still happy and grateful to have them. It's such a such a great feeling to see them still supporting us. um and yeah, and then I guess you just start building from there, polishing your product a bit more, and then try to get uh more market share literally every day, really.
Yeah, and I guess the early adopters still being with you is certainly a sign of the good service that you're delivering. Could you, I'm not going to push you on the names, of course, but could you give us maybe a case study of what you've done for one of those early adopters, just as a proof point for what Venti AI can do for other businesses?
Yeah, I think so. The main thing that we managed to do for them was saving them time. So we saved them a few hours a day, just by simply automating their manual work, specifically around discovery of leads. So this is actually one of the main problems that Venti is actually trying to solve in the recruitment space, which is identifying the opportunities that require, or identifying the hiring intent through all this noise before your competition does. And obviously, we collect these leads from over 200 sources, and then we just put them together with data intelligence signals behind it. You can't do that as a human being. It's just impossible. Like you don't have enough hours in the day to do that. And this was what we started with. And this way we saved them, to at least 2 to 3 hours just by doing that. At the time, right now we do also discovery of the hiring managers. At the time when we started, we weren't doing that. We didn't integrate with like the CRMs they use, so it was quite a initial primitive version. But we are at core. I think at core we remained what we were from day one, which is a lead gen platform. That's first of all a lead gen platform and a data platform. Um, yeah, and then that's what we did for them, really. Of course, we listened to them and we kept refining the types of the leads they would get, tailored around their ICP. And they just liked it. They found it super useful. They even made placements, and that was a testimony for us that okay, we have something here. There's still a lot of work to be done, but it was that initial spark that, hey, actually this could actually work at a bigger scale.
And over the next 12 months or so, what's the kind of growth trajectory that you're looking to complete?
Well, I mean, we have like pretty ambitious goals. I guess I would say we want to triple basically our revenue by the end of next year at least. Um, and obviously this comes with like quite a few challenges around scalability. By the end of the year, we would like to be at least 3 times our current revenue, and then user base wise, probably obviously depending on the, I guess, the size of the customers, could be even like doubling the our current user base.
And how do you get in front of more of your ideal clients?
So right now we're seeing a lot of success from just referrals. Recruitment industry is, I guess, a bit different than other industries in this sense. So there is a very, I guess, tight community there, and the word of mouth works very well, and so we have a lot of incoming referrals right now. But we are planning to do a bit more uh, probably marketing next year, spend a bit more on marketing. Um, and yeah, I guess continuing to be viral, I guess, on so leveraging social media, especially LinkedIn, these sort of things. Um, but for us, I think if we do a good job and we provide value, which is our main objective, then we feel like these referrals will just keep coming, because we know it is a pain point in the recruitment world right now, what the problem I'm trying to solve, which is around the business development. um and so we know the pain is there, and we're just trying to to solve it the best way we can, really.
So the product market fit obviously seems to be there. In terms of what you consider your biggest blockers to growth over, say, the next 12 months with those ambitious plans, what would you say those are?
So probably one of them is the costs and I guess resources needed for data acquisition. I think that's the one of the biggest ones, because we will have to literally triple or quadruple the volume of data that we're currently operating with. Um, of course, costs, we have to keep a balance between costs and um growing, still growing our operations, but to a point where it's actually commercially viable. We are planning to raise next year, so we're pretty much opening our gates right now, but it's probably going to be more since I guess from Jan onwards. So we will need to raise a bit more money to achieve that. We'll probably double the size of the engineering team by then. Also make a few more hires around our sales teams, and operations teams. Um, and I think, yeah, this is, to me personally, the scalability is one of the challenges to achieve what we want to achieve, really, next year.
I guess that brings us back to the point of investment versus revenue, the kind of investment-led or organic growth. Where do you find now, later on your journey, you are in terms of finding the balance between those two, organic and investment-led?
I think there's still room for us to exploit more the organic growth. I think we're gonna continue, I guess, leveraging as much as we can the organic growth. It's quite efficient and quite targeted, and then depending on how that goes, we will probably do some investment on the marketing side, but I would say we still lean a lot towards the organic growth, which has worked for us, up to this point really well. We're growing on average 20% month to month, and we haven't spent a single dime on advertising. Um, but things can always change, and we still think that this is the best way for recruitment anyway to go. And then we also have plans to, I guess, have more and penetrate the US market a bit more next year. We're still like local, so we try to get everything we can out of the UK's market, which is big enough. um, but we do have a couple of customers that operate in the US, and yeah, we do want to explore that further as well next year.
When it comes to investment, you've talked obviously about having marketing as one of the areas of spend. From your sort of product focus, is technical development the largest sort of cause for requiring investment to keep building the product and doubling the sort of size of that revenue coming in.
Yeah, yeah. So the product is actually our biggest expense right now, and the resources takes like a good chunk of our resources on development, maintenance, data acquisition. Obviously, we're constantly trying to adjust and reduce costs, which we have actually done it. Like we managed to reduce the data acquisition cost by 40% recently, which is a huge improvement. That put us back on on the, I guess, commercial viability, and I guess long-term commercial viability. Um, but yes, it does take a lot of our resources, because a lot of our business is actually is built around the core product. We are a technical company with with a core product, or with like a technical product at its core. And we will continue to invest heavily in that. And like you mentioned, so expanding the team, but also all the costs I guess involved in scaling this thing, keeping it, maintaining it, etc.
And when it comes to scaling the team, what plans have you got in place? Because obviously that brings with it its own challenges, bringing new people into the business, sharing the vision with them, and really sharing some of the responsibility and accountability.
Yeah, it's so we've been I guess quite lucky, because I had we I worked with people I already knew in the industry. I had worked with them before. They're actually friends of mine, so that really helps. That level of trust helps a lot. But then there's also, the assessment of their skills, and having worked with them, I know their skills. Now, of course, every time you bring someone in the team, you have to look. Usually, what I look at, to be honest, is obviously skill is important, but to me, what's more important is the soft skills. Like how flexible are you? What's your attitude like? Skills, can be learned. Like hard skills can be learned on the job, but your attitudes, usually people would require a brain transplant if you want to change their attitude. So and I think attitude, has a lot to do with everything. So we're looking the people we're looking for are actually curious by nature. They'd like to just get things done. We don't like we prioritize doing over just talking. We want to move like as quickly as possible. And yeah, it's always a challenge, and finding someone who does care about the product, shares the vision. um but it's part of the it's part of the fun, I guess. And it is challenging, and it does take time for sure. um it took us, with even with this with these guys, I mean, obviously they had their own things, their own gigs. So it took a bit of, I guess, convincing, especially when you're in the first, like in this early stage where, people are a bit cautious, which they should be, because it's super high risk. So it took a bit of convincing there, but yeah, I think, we are prepared to navigate these challenges.
And as a founder, you talked about that obviously takes a certain amount of time. What would be the things that you could share with other people that you feel you'd like to find a solution for, in terms of things that take your time, that pull you away from kind of the day job?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think reducing the number of meetings is the number one thing. I think that the less time you spend in meetings, the better for the company. Um, Obviously, in this startup, we're trying to not get lost in unnecessary meetings. But having worked in the corporate world, and in other companies, I've seen firsthand how draining and unnecessary and useless a lot of these meetings are. Um, so that would be the first thing. The other thing would be, people in a team, especially if it's like 2+ team of founders, should have very, I guess, delimited roles, and so they can operate and each in their lanes. So they don't step on each other's toes. However, with that said, it doesn't mean that you should not understand and see the overall picture of the business. The health of the business. I think that every single founder should know exactly, what the problems in the business are, what the solutions are, what the costs are, the strategy, everything, which we manage at Venti. We managed to do that together, I think, pretty well. um but when it comes to execution, I think each founder should bring complementary skills, and if there is too much overlap in the skills, then there could be a problem. That might be an issue, and the issue might come from the fact that you know uh two founders or three founders can argue forever and still not reach any conclusion. Um, and in these situations, when things happen, especially around, I guess, strategy or wherever, um, it's usually a good idea to have a referee in between. So have like a person who's like, just kind of like almost like two people are fighting, and then the third one just like comes and like splits them up. um, it doesn't happen too often, which is good at Venti because we're most of the times aligned. But there are moments where, we are pretty strong views on different things, and I guess a successful meeting for me is a meeting that ends with like clear action points. And if we haven't achieved that, then we kind of lost the time. We had meetings like that. We went back, we reevaluated, so we became, better and better at doing these things. But sorry for the long answer. I guess the short version would be, just waste as little time as possible in meetings, and prioritize execution, because in the beginning, in the initial stages uh, of a company, execution is crucial. Otherwise, you face basic extinction, and it's a threat that I guess still lingers, and probably lingers for a long time. At any point, your business can be vaporized. So I think this anxiety is what keeps at least me on my toes, and that's why we try to prioritize our time very, very, very well, I think.
It's such an important part of getting the rhythm right in a business. As you say, in the corporate world, it's sort of death by meetings. And I do think that finding your feet as a business in terms of how you use your time, a lot of the founders that I speak to and work with have issues with just being dragged into so many different aspects of the business. And I guess partially that's negated by having a sort of three-way founder setup, which obviously has its own challenges, as you've mentioned. But it does mean that you can share that kind of burden, the sort of founder's burden of being dragged into all of the aspects of the day-to-day, from key product things down to, which coffee you've got in the machine. There's so many things that you kind of don't necessarily think of. So I think it's interesting to sort of see how that balance is of, on your own, you can get sucked into all of these different things. As a three, you can spread the load a little bit, have areas that are more clearly defined. But obviously then you also have a bit of a sort of committee leading the business. So it's an interesting balance between the two, I think, relationship-wise. One final thing that I'm sort of always keen to get from people working in the AI and automation world is, how have you found the attitude of your prospective clients? Because I guess not current clients because they see the results, but prospective clients around the use of AI and automation.
Oh, I mean, they embrace it. They recognize and acknowledge the benefits. There is, of course, a lot of hype in the space, as you know, and you have to, I guess, use your brain to, I guess, filter signal over noise. Um, but they do recognize the power of AI. They do understand that automation is a key part to business, and they do understand that what can be automated should be automated, and manual work equals like wasted time. Also, what's important, I guess, to mention in the recruitment world is recruiters by nature are, salespeople at the end of the day. So for them, all this admin work, starting from discovering the relevant leads, figuring out who to reach out to, understanding the hiring intent from those employers posting these vacancies, that's a lot of manual work that takes hours and hours every day, sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day. And that is what can be automated, and that's what we try to do at Venti. Now, of course, one thing I would mention though is like, using AI for the sake of using AI is also a big mistake. There are actually a lot of cases where AI is not needed, but there are also cases where you couldn't do those things without AI. So I guess an example for us would be the analysis that we do on the job description and trying to extract those hiring intent signals. Um, you could probably do it with AI, but it would take you such a long time, and it would still not come any close to the efficiency that we get just by leveraging large language models. So I think it's a balance, and I think you need to understand very well where AI is needed, and don't buy into the hype. Um, and AI can also harm your brand or reputation, and I'm talking about specifically maybe around reach out email generation. I mean, I get in my inbox all the time all these emails that they clearly are generated with AI. They all look the same. That's harmful, because then that's your whole proposition gets masked and gets lost in the noise. So you have to be very like, how can I stand out now that everybody's like tapping into these things? So you have to be smart about it, I would say, and understand where the opportunities lie and why. Ask yourself a million times, I guess, why do I need AI? Could I do it with AI? And what's the benefit of using AI, to what I'm trying to do? And our customers, are recognizing that it is definitely a valuable technology for a lot of the things that they're trying to achieve. Obviously, business development is a pretty big spectrum, and it involves a lot of things. We tackle just a part of that, which is mainly around the lead gen, data generation, data analysis, stuff like that. But of course, you can go even broader, and find other parts that are, that definitely would benefit, or basically where AI would definitely benefit them.
I think some fantastic advice for a lot of scaling businesses out there, and even larger businesses, of identify the areas where you really do or can benefit from the use of AI, and then maximize it there, rather than taking a scattergun approach and trying to slot it in wherever you can. If, of course, any of our listeners are considering that around recruitment, then I'd urge them to get in touch, and we could put you in touch with Octavian, because Venti is, as you can hear, doing wonderful things and has a very exciting growth story over the next 12 months or so. And I think having put yourself in that position where it's sort of revenue-led and organic growth is a possibility, and you're in a position to scale to such an extent, we wish you all the very best with that, Octavian. And thank you very much for your time today, for coming on. It's been wonderful to speak to you.
Thank you so much, Harry. It's been nice being here. Thanks a lot.